On the surface, 42-year-old Michael Anderson lived a deeply predictable life in a quiet, picturesque American suburb. He held a steady job, spent time with his family, and walked his dog down the same tree-lined sidewalks every single morning. That uninterrupted routine finally broke on the morning of October 14th. Michael never stepped out of his front door. After hours of unreturned phone calls from his wife, local police arrived to conduct a routine welfare check. Stepping inside, investigators found a home frozen in mid-use. A half-finished mug of coffee sat cooling on the kitchen counter. The television was still running in the living room, and Michael's phone was securely plugged into a wall charger. The scene lacked the typical markers of a disappearance. There was no forced entry, no broken glass, and no signs of a struggle. Michael had seemingly evaporated from a sealed house. The first concrete lead came from a house directly across the street. A neighbor's private CCTV camera happened to be pointed squarely at Michael's front door. The footage showed that at exactly 2:17 a.m., a masked individual, dressed completely in black, walked up the driveway and let himself into Michael's home. This 3D layout shows the geographic constraint the investigators were dealing with. The camera's fixed cone of vision covers the only viable exits on the property. To leave the house, a person would have to walk back through that specific frame. Investigators watched the next 8 hours of continuous footage. From 2:17 a.m. until the police arrived the next afternoon, the masked figure is never seen exiting the perimeter. This led investigators to a singular deduction. If the footage was accurate and the man never left, the police were currently standing inside a house with an intruder. Faced with an impossible timeline on the CCTV footage, police initiated a secondary, microscopic sweep of the property. They began knocking on drywall and measuring the interior dimensions against the house's blueprints. Behind a false wall in the basement, they found an unmapped, tightly enclosed hidden room built directly into the home's architecture. The space was entirely untouched, with thick cobwebs stretching across the ceiling. But the dust on the floorboards told a different story. It was crushed beneath a set of fresh, heavily defined boot prints. Right beside those prints lay a single torn piece of paper. Written across it in jagged typography were 3 words: "Don't trust anyone." The existence of a hidden room, combined with a note specifically left on the floor, shifted the investigation's focus. These details pointed to a level of inside knowledge and preparation that made a random crime appear unlikely. Investigators began pulling apart Michael's digital and financial history to see if his private life matched his public persona. They discovered that Michael was leading an active double life as a key whistleblower, deeply embedded as a cooperating witness in a massive federal investigation. This flowchart tracks the corporate fraud he was exposing. By pulling server and banking logs, Michael traced millions in illicit funds moving through shell companies. The people controlling these funds had extensive resources. He was now in the crosshairs of a heavily funded criminal enterprise. While the police now had a clear motive for a targeted hit, they still lacked a physical explanation. The physics of the crime remained unchanged. No professional assassin had been seen leaving the house. The breakthrough came when federal investigators canvassing the wider neighborhood recovered previously unseen footage from a secondary security camera positioned further down the street. They queued up the tape and jumped to the 2:17 a.m. timestamp to watch the masked figure approach from this new reverse angle. As the figure steps into the glare of a passing street lamp, his face becomes visible. Michael Anderson himself is the man wearing the black coat. He had staged the entire disappearance. Michael planted the note, poured the coffee, left his phone on charge before slipping out the back door. He then donned a disguise and walked into the frame of his own front door camera. He created the appearance of an impossible crime to stall the investigation. By focusing the police on a phantom intruder, he gained the head start he needed to escape the cartel's reach. The plan worked. The confusion over the CCTV footage gave Michael the time to disappear before investigators realized they were looking for a man who had already fled. Today, years after that October morning, Michael Anderson remains completely off the grid. He has left no digital or physical footprint. Investigators remain divided. One theory suggests his meticulous planning allowed him to build a new life in the shadows. Another suggests that despite his efforts, his adversaries eventually found him. The physical mystery of the house is solved, but Michael's fate remains unknown. Do you think a person can truly engineer their own disappearance in the modern world? Share your theory in the comments.